curious and insatiable my quest became for the answers to those things. One thing led to another until finally I've come to the point where I've written my Lost Cities books, which give a radically different picture of the ancient past and what it was like than that we're typically taught today. I believe that in the past, the ancient civilizations were more sophisticated than we generally give them credit. The typical scenario, say, taught in high school is that 10,000 years ago, men were cavemen. They suddenly stepped out of their caves in Siberia and Egypt and began building giant pyramids and huge monuments, all within a short space of time. I feel that there needs to be a significant correction to the timeline history that we're taught of a straight line graph of caveman to modern man, because civilization is not this linear progression. It's a roller coaster of peaks and valleys, of ages of science and enlightenment and a sudden dark age and collapse of civilization. We know for a fact that this has happened many times in the past and may easily occur again in the near future. So therefore, it is a different way of looking at the past, one of a roller coaster of history rather than a linear line. The question would be, how far back in time does our roller coaster of history go? I think that we can trace mankind and civilization back at least 50,000 years, if not quite a bit more. We have a considerable amount of evidence for this, including many anomalous artifacts found in geological strata that is clearly of great age, much greater than, say, 10,000 years. We know for a fact, too, that there are iron mines and other mines in Africa, as well as other continents, that go back to 45,000, 50,000 BC. When we add to this the great age of a number of ruins, gigantic ruins that can be found around the world, plus the additional use of ancient texts, such as from ancient India and Egyptian texts and the Greek texts, we come up with a view of the world that's radically different than that we're taught today. A world where people as intelligent as you and I are, just as we do today, building buildings, having commerce with their neighbors and other states, building large ships, and in general doing what civilized people do, which is creating a society which includes buildings and ports and that kind of thing. There's an amazing evidence, too, that in the past there has been quite a bit of geological change that has radically upset the balance of civilization. As an example, it's an archaeological fact that there are more than 200 known sunken cities in the Mediterranean alone. Now, we know that these cities weren't built underwater. Through geological time, port cities have submerged and large areas of land have gone underwater. And conversely, there are other port cities, such as Ur in ancient Babylon or Lothal in the Gujarat Peninsula of India, which are now miles from the ocean, yet had originally been built 5,000 years ago as a port city. From the various sunken cities we found around the world, the ancient and astonishing megalithic remains that can be found in various areas, often in the middle of the desert, sometimes underwater, we can surmise that in the past, some very advanced civilizations who built on a grand scale existed in the past, and it's clear that they were destroyed, possibly through a series of wars, but also clearly through some geological upheavals as well. The destruction of ancient civilizations and the creation of these lost cities seems to often happen because of geological change. There's wide evidence of cataclysms and just disasters of climatic and geological that seem to occur over and over again. This too, these disasters and cataclysms tend to throw off much of the geological dating that is accepted today. For instance, it's often said that the dinosaurs became extinct 65 million years ago. You might ask, well, is this a scientific fact? The truth is, this is not a scientific fact. This is a theory, a scientific theory, and one based on the uniformitarian dating of geological strata, and thereby assigning the strata with many millions of years of age between the strata. Well, something that I might want to point out too that maybe leads into this is that the dating of many civilizations is in serious error, mainly because they're much older than usually we say. Okay. I mean, like Inca stuff in South America, Mayan stuff is like that. Even they're constantly, I mean, this is traditional archaeology, constantly pushing back the dates of everything, you know, and we have this tendency to just make everything, you know, closer to us in civilization. Okay. But yeah, there is a controversy in dating, and a lot of people don't understand the nuances of dating. Like they'll say, well, of course they've carbon 14 dated these fossils or something. I mean, things are, you know, totally impossible. Like, as you said, you know, nothing can be carbon dated that's older than like 30,000 years old, really. And even that's kind of tricky. I mean, that kind of thing, you know. The dating of many ancient cultures is inexact and is controversial. Many ancient cultures are apparently much older than originally dated. Archaeologists are continually pushing back the dates of civilization. We see this in Central America with Mayan structures. We see this in South America. We even see this in Egypt and in India and the Middle East. Also in China and Southeast Asia, constantly pushing back these ages. I think that there is evidence that man has lived with dinosaurs. And in the same vein that dinosaurs have lived with man. That man and dinosaurs have cohabited on this planet, even in the recent future, there is a considerable amount of evidence for. First of all, as evidence for dinosaurs and man living together, we have the tremendous amount of written material and verbal legends. The story of dragons, for instance, is an interesting one, and one that clearly seems to relate to dinosaurs. Giant sea monsters, lake monsters, which could be a type of dinosaur, even the story of flying dragons, as in Chinese, Mayan mythology, also the mythology of the Middle East, of griffins and other sort of flying lizard monsters. These clearly relate to dinosaurs, and we know for a fact that at least at one point in the past, such animals did exist. Now, it might be worth asking ourselves, well, are the legends of dinosaurs and flying dragons and monsters like that, is it possible that they had just seen fossils and therefore concocted legends to go with what were the fossilized remains of these animals? Or, as the legend seems to say, did man actually live at the same time as dinosaurs and interact with them? Typically in a scene of slaying a dragon or a monster. It is possible that dinosaurs, many varieties of dinosaurs that are thought extinct, are still alive today. There is a branch of zoology which is known as cryptozoology. Crypto meaning hidden, zoology, animals, the study of hidden animals. This is a legitimate area of zoology and intrigues many zoologists, including myself. Cryptozoologists then search the world for these hidden animals. It can be as varied as large animals believed to exist in the Loch Ness Lake of Scotland and the Loch Ness Monster. I think that dinosaurs do still exist today. And the idea of extinct animals not being extinct, but have carried down remote areas of the world today is not only a credible theory, but one that is gaining in popularity. Dinosaurs could easily be alive in many areas of the world. For instance, in 1977, a Japanese fishing boat off New Zealand brought up out of the water the carcass of what appeared to be a plesiosaur, an animal that should have been extinct for millions of years. And yet, they had it on board the ship, it was photographed, scientists on board the ship monitored and studied it, and then, unfortunately, they threw it back into the water because they were afraid that it would contaminate the catch of tuna that they had. Well, why don't people see dinosaurs today, you might ask? That's a good question. The answer to that is they do. Dinosaurs were reported around the world